Lauryn Hill's sweetest thing. I once saw this athlete. He was an Olympic athlete, and he won. I forgot. He'd won a lot of events, and they were talking to him and asked him, was he surprised? And he said, no, I'm happy, I'm grateful, but I'm not surprised because this is what I've been preparing for. This is what I manifested. This is what I knew would happen. Much the same as you can anticipate things and prepare for things and set your mind to things. I don't know what America is thinking or particular states are thinking when they decide to give weapons to people that they haven't done a background check on, that they have mental evaluation, that you can just walk in and buy a gun. Because if you make it that easy to buy guns, you better be prepared for people to use them. Anybody, and I said this before, if you're stockpiling weapons and ammunition, you are not a good guy. You're a bad guy waiting for your moment. Now, you haven't had it yet, and then people are going to say, but he was a law-abiding citizen until he wasn't. Why give anybody access to that kind of weaponry and still act shock and feign shock? Somebody yesterday in Atlanta, a young man shot up a mental health facility, but he could have access to a gun. Why is it harder in America to get help than it is to get guns? It is harder to get an education than it is to get guns. It is harder to vote than it is to get guns. It's harder to fish or to hunt than it is to get guns. And Francisco Oropesa, another mass shooting in Texas, Cleveland, Texas. Now, this young man was asked by his neighbors to stop shooting. The baby was asleep. One of their children was asleep. What does he do? He takes the very gun he was shooting and then murders that family and goes on the run. Now, we found out a lot about Mr. Oropesa, that he was somebody who was deported at least 4 times, that at the very residence he was in, he'd had the police called on him for doing the very thing, which was shooting a weapon and being a disturbance. So he, in fact, murdered those people. But he was contacted by law enforcement. He has been deported 4 times. So there is, the question is, of course, our immigration system is broken. It worked a couple of times. It got him out of the country 4 times. The question is, yes, we have a broken immigration system, but why make it easier for people who are criminals where they're from to buy guns here? Now, yes, the immigration system is broken. How did that man who had a record, who'd been deported 4 times, who the police had come out to, how come nobody decided that that man shouldn't have a gun? How come there's no mechanism in place for people like that to not have a gun? Yes, the immigration system is broken. Do you think it's better to have people who come across the border and we don't know and ask questions have unfettered access to weaponry like that? It wasn't illegal for him to have that gun. Why? Because Texas decided that they're going to make it so lax to buy guns, you can go in there and do whatever you want. You can buy a gun. Nobody asks you a question. Nobody knows your immigration status. Nobody knows whether you're a criminal or not. You just buy the gun and you move on. And you can't be shocked when this happens. If you're a runner and you win races that you're prepared for, you cannot be shocked. Much like that, you can't be shocked when people buy weapons and prepared to use them. We're a nation right now where it's harder to buy Sudafed than weapons. The conceit is if you go to buy more than a couple of packs of Sudafed, that you're going to do something nefarious with it. But not weapons. We don't need to know who you are. We don't need to know what your plans are. We don't need to know what you're up to. We can't even ask you if you're an immigrant, legal or not, and owning a weapon. We can't ask you what your mental capacity is, what your criminal history is. All these states have decided that this is the way to go. All these states have decided that putting guns in the hands of people we don't know, haven't vetted, and have no idea who they are or what they intend to do is the right way to go. That is your idea of freedom. Well, if that is your idea of freedom, you cannot be shocked when mass numbers of people get killed. You can pray all you want, but prayer is not legislation. You have decided that the best way forward in this country is to put guns in the hands of people who you have not vetted, who you don't know, who you know nothing about. They can grab a gun and walk around that day. If you're prepared to win a race, if you're not shocked when you win a race that you're prepared for, you can't be shocked when you prepare the nation to be slaughtered like this. That's a little note from the GED section. We got the Jazz Report coming up in 15 minutes. It's the D.L. Hughley Show.